everyone, happy Tuesday. It's Jack from Cultaholic.com back again with another quick news update. We have 4 big pieces of wrestling news, and I didn't know how to order these pieces because they're all pretty damn important or exciting, or in some cases disappointing, especially this first one, which considers the potential scrapping of a regular WWE pay-per-view. Let's waste no further time and let's get straight into it and take a look at all of the news. So this comes via Mike Johnson of PW Insider, who said that last night on Monday Night Raw, WWE were supposed to apparently air some kind of advert for pre-sale tickets for TLC, which I believe takes place on October 21st, I want to say. Instead, however, apparently they aired a different commercial for the live crowd only, which advertised a WWE Super Show kind of live event, which would apparently feature Ronda Rousey, but crucially, also on October 21st, the same date. This has led to a little bit of speculation that maybe TLC could be heading out back, getting taken care of, getting scrapped essentially, getting left on the scrap heap. But it was only a little bit of speculation until there were further developments on Twitter. There, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com tweeted in response to this news from Mike Johnson, saying that recently he was sent a vague piece of sort of info from a regular trusted source of his, which alluded to the potential scrapping of a WWE pay-per-view. So if you put 2 and 2 together, usually you get 4. It looks as though maybe TLC could be getting scrapped from the regular WWE pay-per-view calendar. If this is to be true, I guess there's 2 main questions. First of all, why TLC? Could it be because we've already got Money in the Bank, another ladder-based pay-per-view, Extreme Rules, another weapons-based pay-per-view? Maybe WWE are finding this to be a little bit of overkill. Another possible reason is also maybe that there could be a Halloween-based show. Maybe they're bringing back Halloween Havoc because it is at the end of October. And finally, maybe as well, the other question is why would TLC, what would replace it essentially? I kind of answered that in my previous point about Halloween Havoc. But if it's not Halloween Havoc, what else would it be? There's just a little theory I've got, but I think it could be Halloween Havoc. We know that I think quite a few months ago now, the WWE registered trademarks for Halloween Havoc, so we could see a lovely big Halloween-themed show instead. In other news, an NXT superstar yet to be called up to the main roster appeared and wrestled on a SmackDown live show in Maine last night, running the same night as obviously Monday Night Raw on television, but a SmackDown house show, and that person was Nikki Cross. Now obviously Sanity have been called up to SmackDown, but Nikki Cross wasn't called up with them. It's not yet clear whether she'd be part of the stable or whether there's been a split engineered by WWE, but basically the main reason that she stayed down in NXT for longer was that she had unfinished business there. She was #1 contender for Shayna Baszler's NXT Women's Championship. Of course, Nikki didn't manage to beat Shayna Baszler at TakeOver Chicago 2, so it seems like the path is free for her now to head up onto the main roster, and it looks as though SmackDown could be her likely destination. At the show, Nikki teamed with Becky Lynch to defeat the Iconics in a tag match, but I don't know really what to make of it because, again, PW Insider have reported that apparently Nikki Cross is not scheduled to be on tonight's SmackDown Live televised show. But I think overall this whole sort of news seems to strongly imply that Nikki will be finding her way to SmackDown at some point in the near future. Maybe even she can make a surprise sort of debut at Extreme Rules on Sunday. Who knows? Next up, on his own podcast, Booker T talked about how he's not actually officially really retired from wrestling. He is, of course, a WWE Hall of Famer, but intriguingly, he did suggest that he's been thinking about maybe wrestling another match. Booker T is 53, but obviously he seems to have kept himself in pretty damn good shape, and also says that his body feels good too. He said also that he would really enjoy wrestling in his own promotion, Reality of Wrestling, but would have to think twice maybe about appearing at a big show such as WrestleMania. I obviously hope that he would wrestle at WrestleMania if he was to return, because Booker T, I think, is not only one of the most sort of beloved figures of the Attitude Era, or the late Attitude Era heading into the mid-2000s, but also I think simultaneously one of the most underrated. He was kind of overshadowed by like Cena, Batista, Orton, that kind of sort of caliber of folk. And then earlier on in his career, he was kind of overshadowed by obviously The Rock, Austin, those sort of big Attitude Era guys. But I think Booker T was damn good in the ring, and it would be a shame to see him not return. I think he's one of those retired legends, or not officially retired legends, who I'd genuinely love to see back in the ring. But what do you think? I'm pretty sure that a large number of you would agree. And finally, after appearing at UFC 226 this past week, calling out Daniel Cormier and shoving him in the middle of the octagon, Brock Lesnar has officially re-entered the USADA drug testing pool. Of course, he was suspended from UFC after his last fight with Mark Hunt, which he originally won via unanimous decision, but then the whole, result was rendered null and void because he failed the drugs test. Now that Lesnar is back in the USADA drug testing pool, it means that his suspension has been unfrozen and will continue to tick down. And various people online seem to be reporting that it will be over and done with and he'll be cleared to compete once again in UFC by early January 2019. From all accounts, especially those that matter from Dana White, obviously the UFC's big dog, the Vince McMahon of UFC, he seems to have suggested that he'd love to book Cormier versus Brock Lesnar for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. And I'm not a UFC expert by any means, or an MMA expert generally by any means, but I know that Daniel Cormier is regarded as one of the best of all time. He only ever really lost to John Jones, who, like Lesnar, was, who fell afoul of various sort of drug suspensions and that sort of thing, various controversies, both in and outside of the octagon. But Cormier only really lost to him and sort of dominated all of his other competition. However, when Lesnar got in that octagon and looked down at him, he was towering over Daniel Cormier. Cormier usually sometimes pretty much fights at light heavyweight rather than heavyweight, and he bulked up a bit to win that title. He's also the current UFC light heavyweight champion too, but is he big enough to really challenge Lesnar? Or is, on the other hand, Lesnar skilled enough to take on one of the greatest of all time? It's a very intriguing one, but also what kind of ramifications does it have in the pro wrestling world? Will Lesnar do what he did last time, stick around in WWE, but taking massive amounts of time off to get ready for his UFC fight? Or will he just cut ties with Vince McMahon altogether and somehow surrender the WWE Universal Championship to Roman Reigns? Or someone, any competitor on the Raw roster, but Roman Reigns. So that's it for now. Thank you very much for watching this news piece. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. And if you are so inclined, you can check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, of course, to join us.